think that comes to the next tasks. I think we have this. But so you're getting kind of tired. So I would like to give you a small task. Let's understand the topics. So there's something weird happening with IoTempower, how it creates the topics. So let's assume you have one of these IoT systems, which is called My House. And there's a folder living room in there. In living room, you have LEDs 1 and LEDs 2. There's a kitchen in there with a toaster and a coffee machine. Basically, so these are the folder, and these are the devices then defined in the setup CPP in there. So now with your peer, figure out what are the topics. If you have this folder structure, what are the topics that would be created? Where do I need to send something with MQTT to switch on the coffee machine? Where do you have to send something and what to set all lights in the living room to blue? And where do I have something to turn the main power off? So, and then from when you think about that, what is the general rule for forming these topics? And I think the last question you can already answer. So, but definitely work on the first 2 questions for 10 minutes, and then let's discuss how topics work. It's not hard, but it's kind of a little bit funny to wrap your head around here. Okay, first question, how do you make coffee at my house? And so you're missing one subtopic, because the switch is actually only reporting on switch. So on this topic you took, you can read the status of the coffee machine, but you cannot set the status of the coffee machine. So what is missing? Set. Yeah, exactly. So that's one topic /set missing. Yeah. Now the LED can be switched on via sending to the MQTT broker the topic, living room, LED yellow set.
So in the end, it was kitchen, coffee machine, switch, set, and
yes.
On, and then on, right?
Yep. Exactly. So let's go back here. Great, guys. But I saw a lot of solutions where you included My House. And I said, yeah, it's kind of okay, but not completely. So why is My House not included in the topic? Because we are already in My House. And so actually then the nicest answer is because system.conf is in My House. Yeah, so if system.conf would be 1 level higher, then it would be included. So you basically have to go back until where system.conf is.
I see my house like the project, or you know.
Yeah, the system. It's the system. It's the IoT system, and we can have several systems. But yeah, so I just added a question, which we can answer already here at this point. What if we would have system.conf 1 level higher, and then we would also have your house? Then it would be included. So if you would have this structure here, I don't know if I now confuse you more or less. So we would have your house with something in below, and the system.conf would be there. Then we would need to include it. But we don't. Set all the lights in the living room to blue. And payload blue. Perfect. Yeah. So you have to send 2 commands. You have to send to leads 1 and to leads 2.
Can you send it globally to the?
No, it would be a cool feature actually, but I I actually don't know. I think you cannot use wildcards when you write to MQTT. But in principle, you could totally say LEDs plus / and then RGB set. So that would be correct way, but I think that doesn't work, but should be tested. So it would be either LEDs and the # or LEDs plus. These are the 2 wildcards you use. There would be definitely a cool extension for, if it doesn't work, it would be a nice extension to implement inside the MQTT send. It would take it to the next level. And turn the main power off. I think that's pretty easy now, yeah? Here, one of you, what's the topic for main power? Yeah, perfect. I think you got it. So what is the general rule?
If you want to change something to
Or something even below. So if there are different things you can set. Yeah, so how do we construct the topic in general? So one way would be to say, hey, start at the device. So first look at the device and then the set topic that in there, and then walk up until you find the system.conf and attach all the folder names to the beginning of it.
I said follow the folder architecture from system config down to the node, add the device and the subtopics.
Okay, when do you want to change something in the system.conf? I mentioned that before in the demonstration, but I think it's good to repeat it here. So basically, you want to change something if you move the project to somewhere else. If the project is not running on the same machine that is the gateway for the whole project, then you want to change things in the system.conf. If the project is even more complex and you have different subsystems, sub-Wi-Fi's, then you want to change the node.conf. System.conf basically gives the root of the project. I think we can nearly wrap up here at this point. Let me see what okay, we actually dealt with this. There's one file I want to still show you. So there, as you see, there are a lot of things that can overwrite each other if you use IoTempower, and that can be confusing. So there is also, if you don't want to change the system.conf, if you have actually a new gateway, there's also a file here in etc. And see, here is an IoTempower.conf. And basically here it says all the variables you can override at root level. So if everything should be the same on your computer, if you manage a lot of IoT systems from your same computer, you can basically say here the access point, and you can also set the MQTT host in here. So this is basically then where you want to do it. So basically first, IoTempower reads the general system settings. These are here in this etc. file. On the Pi, it even looks at the configurations in Wi-Fi config. Then the second thing that IoTempower reads is the system.conf. And then the third thing it reads is the node.conf. So in this way, you can override different system settings step by step. And as you now see, if the system gets more complex, you can do a lot of things, but also lots of confusing things. One more feature I should mention to you is, so what happens if I have another node? So I basically created the same device. Now I have it in test 01 and I have it here in room test 02. What do you expect to happen if I run compile or deploy in this top folder here? What? Everything. Am I in the IoT environment? Yeah. See, it does here. Yeah, I didn't see it. But so this is the first compile process. And then you see it actually. And this was already the second process. So we can now, it runs through everything below it. So you can basically say, I want to deploy everything in a room. I want to deploy everything in the whole system. And so based on this, you can run these commands. So all the compile and deploy commands actually allow you to work on the whole hierarchy below where you actually run it. So if you see, if I go into room test 02 and I run compile here, it only does one. And it's faster. Okay, that was important. Let's do this exercise. So have you checked off some features of the features you wanted? Did you find some features you wanted? So think 1 minute and look again at your list and see if some of the features of scaling up IoT systems you actually have covered. So does IoTempower do something of what you want it to do? How many features could you check off?
I would say about more than.
Yeah, you did it right. Mention 2 topics that you checked off. The device as a support for multiple devices, yeah? Okay, so there is the different driver support, and there's actually scaling support in terms of, So give me one topic that you think is not covered.
But I am creating stories, coding is filling in.
Yeah, it doesn't create stories for you. I need ChatGPT, I think, to do that. But hey, it actually, if you look at it's partly there. So if you look here at the template I used, you see there's actually a folder scenarios. That's at least a template, which should encourage you to write a scenario per system folder. So the idea would be, in a perfect case, you would have a scenario in here, and you would have something described in the README here to support this scenario-driven development. So I think if you want to deliver a perfect project in the end using IoTempower, there should be something in the scenario, but it doesn't really support that building for you. But the idea is there. Okay, we had some free-form questions from Jan actually in between. Jan wanted to know how blockchain and IoT work together, and if IoTempower supports blockchain somewhere. And I have to sadly say IoTempower doesn't support the blockchain at all at the moment. However, that doesn't mean that your scenario couldn't include that, and that you could add a consensus mechanism for kind of keeping two IoTempower systems kind of in agreement. I think with some Node-RED magic, we could get the blockchain in if we wanted. But that was the first time that somebody asked me to do that. So I think that could be an interesting final project to make something like that work, but there's no direct support of blockchain in there. Okay, thanks. I hope this worked out okay. And sorry that I started a little late and took a little later, but that's probably the hardest lecture you will get from me, was the one today. And it gets easier after that. But I wanted to give you at least a feeling about what is going on under the hood.